Hey, all you cool cats. Hopefully you guys are all doing good. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to animate a 5 to 10 word phrase or saying using After Effects. Now, this is going to be an extension off of our first exercise with text. So we're going a little bit more into the weeds with these text exercises. And then after this exercise here, we're going to have our final one, which will be a larger animation set to audio. So this one is to see how we can animate a large block of text and make it more creative than just showing the words pop up on screen, but animate them so they feel a little bit more like they make sense. They match visually what the words mean. So in this example right here, if I play this, this is something I put together. Timing's a little off on some of these spots, but you can see better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. So this idea, just going through, looking at Proverbs, looking at all kinds of different little sayings I can come up with. You don't have to go this far with the text being broken up into two sections here. So I have my first section where it's candle. Then I have my second section, curse. Actually, there's three sections, then the darkness. You can do that all in one screen, so all the words can show up all at once. That's fine. I did this so I can show a bunch of different techniques that were applied to this thing, and I'm going to share this file with you guys so you can see this as well. I also have some other examples that Scott Connor has that I'll share with you guys as well, so you can see different ways to get creative with text and make it seem more detailed and exciting for when you actually animate it. So better to light a candle. So if we break this down, we have better to fly in, we have light, we have that flicker on and glow, and then we have candle, in which I made this really cheesy. You can even see they're kind of spheres. There's a tutorial I'll share in the video description for this video of the person who made a really nice tutorial for this. I could have kept going with it, but I needed to stop for the sake of having this ready for you guys. But there's so many different videos out there for After Effects for you guys to be able to see. So many great people have shared their knowledge online. Don't be afraid to look something up, as long as you're not just ripping it off and doing exactly what they're doing, but you're applying it to a different area. That's awesome, and that's what's great about YouTube. So don't be ever hesitating to check out YouTube for tutorials. So there's that part, and then the curse. I came up with some different things, so you'll see there's like droplets, water droplets going on. I animated the letters to shake, and I even gave a little bit of like a twirl and rotate on it. So you can see there's a green outline on there. So when the droplets are going outwards from this text, this block of text, you can actually just get a little bit of an extra bit of color in that. So that's pretty nice. And then when that fades, I move that upwards, fade it out, and then the darkness, I'm using a spotlight, and I'm just animating across this. And I also have a glow on the text. So let me break down how this actually works. I'm obviously not going to be able to go through the whole step on this because that's a lot of pieces here. So if we look at all the different stuff that I'm doing, let me twirl these so we can hide that, or at least minimize the amount of stuff we see. So we have, let's break this down. We back up a little bit. You can see better to animating inwards. And I know we talked about this, but just as a reminder, to turn motion blur on to your object, you can just check this button right here, and that allows for our object to blur out. If I turn that off, notice it's visible the whole time. So that just gives a little bit more detail, some more depth to our movement. So we have this animating in, nothing special here. This is just using translate. So if I go into my position for the transform, you can see I'm just moving this in. So that's moving inwards. And I also have it fading at a certain point. So once it goes to a certain point here, my opacity, you'll see, drops down to 0. So that's how those are going away. Remember that if you were to select any of the text blocks here, or any of the words here, and then just hit Control C, and then go to another one of your layers, you can Control V, and that'll apply that same animation to another layer. So helpful thing to realize in case if you are working and you're realizing that you did this complex animation and you need another thing to do the same thing, copy and paste that. So that's an easy way to work. Inside of our layer styles, you do see that I have some blending options in here. Not much is going on, so I would say it's really this one right here. It's my gradient. This is an easy thing to apply to text. If we were to, let me just make a new comp. And I'm going to make a piece of text here. And I'll call that text because I'm super creative right now. I'm sure all you are feeling super motivated. We're all working from home. We're doing the best we can. Again, if you ever have questions or you want to chat, we could do so. Just let me know and I'll try and make time out of during my office hours for you. So let me know. And so let's see here. I have this text. You'll notice down here I have a line. I can press that button, press this, and now I know that my text is in the middle. So that's a cool thing to do. I have a paragraph and I have a line. That's pretty easy to navigate through those things. Also, if you can't find any of these things in here, you can go to Window and then just turn those on if they are not showing up. Now, a lot of people also can't find their effects. That's usually buried under here. So if we do this, we can go one of the drop downs. There's the effects and presets. We can go back to text by going to character. And so we can swap these things out back and forth. Let's change this color so it's a little bit easier to see. So I got this nice yellow and I have black background. So within here, if I go into this text, I could right click on this and then go to Effect. And then there's a lot of different things that we can add. There's everything from trying to add noise and grain. So noise and grain, if we add something like dust and scratches on here, is that going to show up on our text? Let's see. Let's increase that and increase the threshold. So you'll notice by just doing that, let's not zoom too far in, there we go. I can actually get that to look like the text is getting dirty. So kind of a fun little technique. Maybe not for you. If you want to get rid of that, just select that and hit delete and that is gone. Let's go in and let's try to add something else. Let's try for a mirror. And so if we move this thing around, oh wow, you can actually just have this mirror out from that other piece. So this exercise is more about you guys exploring your effects and animation. The only way to get good at After Effects is to mess around, and honestly, that's half of what I was doing to create this last one, was just playing around with different effects to see how I can get different techniques to make something happen. It is something just from experimenting. You can come up with a lot of different things. Have an idea about what you want to do, but then go through and create the technique by either looking up what it is you're trying to do or experimenting like what I'm doing again. So I'm trying to type or talk and work at the same time, so that never works very well. So inside of here, there's a lot of different things I can add. If we even go into our effects on the side, we can search. So if I type in gradient, I can add a gradient. So you could also do that by right clicking where I was just showing you on the name of the layer. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to add gradient ramp on my object. And oh look, I have a gradient. Now the way this is applying right now is it's just adding it as a color. We can change how that's being applied for the location, so the end of the ramp, it's right here. If I wanted that to be up higher, all of a sudden it looks grayed out because the start of the ramp is down low too. So if I move that, all of a sudden I get this back up. And then if we needed to, we can animate these things around. So that's an easy way to add a very, I guess, a little bit more of a dynamic looking piece of text and just making it a solid color. We can change the color on that. So we can change that to linear and radial. I'm trying to talk and think at the same time, which I guess most people can do, but not me right now. So that's an easy way to be able to just add a gradient on there. Let's go back to our project that we were working on. So I'm going to go to project and go back to my comp 1. And so that's kind of how we got gradient on text that was animated. Now, the next one that has a little bit more of a complex thing going on is our light. And our light flickers on and off. Let's look at what that effect is. I have glow and I have a drop shadow. So if I were to uncheck these two, you can see that glow is on here and it doesn't really look like it's doing too much yet. So what this is actually doing for me, if I open this up, let's go to, so glow kind of, let me zoom in. It allows for things to kind of look like they're going beyond the edge. It's a little bit subtle here until I start to add these other effects, which is the drop shadow, white glow, and the halo. So that is, again, under here. If we were to type in glow, it's this one right here. It's a dimensional glow. So if we were to go into here, oops, where is my other comp? Comp 2. Okay, let's do that same thing to this one. So let's add dimensional glow to this. And right now it looks like it's there, but it's also kind of very subtle. To increase that, we have to mess around with things like the scatter. We have to mess around with the distance and the softness. So distance makes it move away from the object. However, our softness, we can start to get that to show up a little bit more. And we can start to get this to feel like it's glowing. So this is something, again, you'll have to mess around with the settings, but blending with the original will allow for our original text color to come through. And now we have the glow and the text color that we had originally there. And a number of other settings here that kind of makes for a nice looking effect on an object. And how I ended up getting that light bulb to look like it was glowing is I animated the level of that. So my opacity, if I drop and turn that on, I can make it look like it's glowing. And I can also, let me go that far and this far. So you can see that it's really starting to feel like that. I can animate the text's opacity so it looks like it's turning on and off at the same time that I'm animating the glow. So it's right now set up as white. It doesn't have to be that way. It could be yellow, it could be green. You want to make a nuclear thing going on, there you go. So lots of different settings on there that are pretty straightforward on that. And so that is better to light A, and then we get into this crazy one right here. Candle. So let's open this thing up. And let me twirl that, or untwirl that so it's closed up a little bit. So we just zoom in. All right. Candle. Candle has effects in it that are pretty interesting. It moves up, and then all of a sudden I have, let's get that to show up here. All right, so I have a bevel alpha on the candle. And what that bevel alpha is doing is just making it so it feels more dimensional. And so super fancy, right? So you'll see how this looks like it's got a bevel applied to that. Well, let's just type in bevel. And there's a bevel alpha. Let's go into our other comp and see how that works. All right, I'm gonna get rid of my effects that are on this now. As you can see, it's starting to fill up. So I'm gonna go and kill off these shadows and all that other stuff. And I'm going to drag bevel alpha on. Okay, does it look like it's doing anything? It is. It's just super small. So that edge thickness, if we increase that, now we can start to see this. The light color and direction influences that. And that's pretty nice to make three-dimensional looking objects. So that is one way to make our object look a little bit more three-dimensional. Bevel edges is another way to do that. The problem with this is you'll notice that it's based off of the text block here. So it's kind of making that like very rectangular. So not exactly that great. Let's try rounded beveled. And so this one you'll see might get a little bit better techniques on some of the letters, but in that X you can see it's really distorting. So each of these has pros and cons to use. Again, highly recommend you to try messing around with these and seeing which one works best for you. I can't tell you exactly which one to use. It's a form of experimentation. So whatever your animated text is going to be, whatever the saying is going to be, that's where I want you to start thinking about what you want to animate or how to animate it. So let's go back to comp 1. So the candle, it looks kind of fancy. That's totally ignoring the fire part. But it's really not a lot of different settings that we had to do to get this look 3D. The next spot, which isn't even labeled, I should have labeled that. If I hold down enter. Oh, I have it. There we go. Let me rename that to fire. Oops. So enter and fire. Okay, so this one, that was just an extra thing that doesn't even need to exist. Okay, it's this one right here. Let me unlock this, hit enter to rename, and we'll call that fire. Okay, so if I zoom out, I also wrecked my project, it looks like, so that's cool. Okay. So it is right here, and enter. We'll call this fire, enter, and let's open this thing up. I'm going to share the way that you can make this. You'll notice it's on its own layer. It's just on a blank solid layer, and we have applied a number of different things. One of those things is particle systems, a vector blur, and a gradient ramp. So if I actually look at that inside of projects and go to comp 2, and let's create a new layer. I'm going to turn this one off. I'm going to right click, new, solid, and we'll make that black. And I'm going to go to the effects. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to type in particle. So particle systems 2, if I drag that into here, you can see nothing happening yet. Bam. Fancy, right? So if I hit play, cool. I've got really cheesy sparklers. Which, hey, maybe you got something that has to do with cheesy sparklers. That's nice. Let's look at what we can do. Right now it's being set as an explosion. We can do a fractal explosion. It's a little different in how that looks. A twirl. Which maybe right now that doesn't really make sense for something that would look like this, but maybe the colors of this would be blue or something, and that could look like a hurricane maybe. I don't know. Twirly. Okay. Vortex. Tornado. So if we increased some of these things like the gravity, and then let's figure out where the position of this is. So if I move that down, now you can kind of see, I'm going to get rid of the, I'm going to increase my longevity so it takes longer, and the birth rate, how many that are being created. So interesting. Fun little thing there. Fire. Again, that doesn't look like fire. Well, let's look what our particles are. Down here, our particle type is line. I can do stars and then make my computer hate everything that I'm doing. Okay, it's not doing anything too bad. Shaded spheres. That's sort of nice, but it doesn't seem probably the way it should be. Faded sphere. That looks a little bit better, but we have to try and play around with some of the settings on here. So one of those things is going to be the radius. Probably don't want it to go out too far, and the radius on this one might be able to play around here. My longevity probably needs to be a little bit lower. My birth size, I can increase that, and let's see what that did. Okay, so there's a whole tutorial on this. You can follow along to make something look pretty nice. Again, particles. This is a great thing to try. I'm not going to go through the whole steps on this because your stuff's going to be unique to how to do that. So, and I don't want to make this a 1 hour video and just to make the fire effect. So, all right, let's see what else I got. Curse. So better to light a candle than to curse. Okay, so whoa, look at that text. It's just like flying in. And how is it doing that? Well, let's look. Oh, it's actually on a path. This is extremely easy to do. If I were to go, let's get rid of this fire. All right, I'm going to take a new bit of text here. So I'm going to go and create some text, and we'll call that choo choo. Hopefully you know where I'm going with this. Okay, if I use a pen tool and I don't click off this, but I start to draw that out. Okay, and then now I go into here and I go into my text and path options. Right now there's nothing on the path. Let's change that. Mask 1. Oh boy, that's a hot mess. Let's see what this is going to do for me. All right, my first margin, let's back that up. We're going to go all the way back. All right, let's key that. So if I start here and I go over here, and then I bring it over. Cool. Now if I hit play, choo, choo. Isn't that exciting? It's the slowest train. So how do we speed that up? Let's move this closer. Choo, choo. Looks a little bit more like a slinky, but that's kind of an interesting way to make that moving around. Now, we could also add a bunch of other fun stuff to this. So we could try, if we go to animate, and let's say, let's try character offset with this. This might be a fun thing to mess around with. If we mess around with character offset, oh, weird. It's changing the word as it goes. So it's actually sliding down alphabetically. So if I undo, if I go 1, so let's just tell that 1. So all of a sudden, it went from being a C to a D. And now it's not choo choo, it's dip dip, which, hey, that's pretty weird. Okay, so kind of a fun little thing to do. I don't know why you'd need to have that happening. Maybe you're making a special effects for like a spy, creating a random crack for a computer hack or something like that. So it's generating text and trying to solve an algorithm. I don't know. Maybe that's such a specific idea right there. But there's other stuff that we can do too. Let's try. I'm going to try my effects wiggle. And I'm going to try wiggle scale. And wiggle, 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 yeah. Let's see what we could do on this wiggle scale. I've got my wiggle scale. Let me increase the wiggle speed and the wiggle amount. Probably don't want to go anywhere with that because that's going really crazy. And not that one either, but let's see if we can use some skew. Nope. So again, I'm kind of messing around here as I go with this one, but let's see if this can... I'm horrified and amazed. It's getting worse as it goes by, which kind of feels how this tutorial's going. Weird. So this is an interesting thing that we can mess around with. So there's wiggle. We can also try wiggle gelatin on this instead. So instead of making that mess, let's try wiggle gelatin here, and let's just hit play with that one. I'm doing it, guys. It's great, right? So let's reduce that amount. We're gonna go maybe 1, because that was a little bit painful to watch. And not noticeable. So again, just keep increasing some numbers. So now 5, what is that doing for me? So yeah, wiggle gelatin, maybe that's not the right one for this one, but there's some other fun stuff that we can do. Again, try things out. Lots of different little ways to add motion and things going on in here. So under behaviors, that's one of those great places for under animation presets. And behaviors here, you can see all sorts of fun stuff. There's fade in, there's rotate over, scale, wiggle. All those things are for you to mess around with, and I'm going to be sharing some extra effects for you guys to try out. So again, this is a lot with experimenting, seeing how you can get certain things to happen by applying some of these effects on here. So again, you should have a master plan on what you want to do, and then you could look it up online to figure out how to do certain things, or use some of the tutorials that I'm providing for you guys. So let's get out of that horrifying thing that was just there. So I animated that to come in and out by setting my first margin. So I animated it starting it over here, and then it stays here on top, and then I copied by hitting Control C. I went further in the timeline for as long as I wanted that to stay to where I want it to be. So I had to hold, and I hit Control V, and then I move that off screen. Next, I have this curse. Curse, I experimented with a lot of different things here. Basically what we got is the text that has skew, and skew makes it kind of have that wiggle that goes by. That's actually what I should have used for the train, is that wiggle. Centipede or a caterpillar would do that really nicely too. For that, I have a burn, and burn is giving me some dark edges around the sides of this. And if I increase or decrease that, you can see I can make that even like disappear. So that's a really cool thing I can do here. So that burn is how I have that coming in, and you'll notice it's kind of gone first, and then it gets to 100%, or no, it goes from 100% to 0, and it kind of reveals itself. I have a scatter eyes, and what scatter eyes does is it allows for me to wiggle edges to make it feel 3D. So I should have probably gone a little bit more on this, but I kind of used it just to give a little bit of a movement to the this, to make it feel like it's kind of like smoke in the air. So if I hit play again, let this preview. So now you can kind of see that a little bit further off on that. So kind of a cool effect there. And then drizzle. And what the hizzle is drizzle? Let's look at what we got here. So let's get this monstrosity out of here. I shouldn't even upload this video with that choo-choo. It's so bad. All right, let's call some drizzle in, and we're gonna go and click on a line again, make it in the middle, and faux shizzle. We're gonna get some drizzle. Let's go into here and effects and presets, drizzle. Let's add that to here. Before we do that, let's change this color of our character so it is going to be bluish. Okay. Now let's go back to effects and drizzle. Drag that on there. And hey, it's finding Dory stuff, or you know, something that I don't know. It look at that. It looks pretty nice. It looks like raindrops, right? How do we change that? Well, your drip rate. Now it's raining a lot more. That's a pretty cool effect. As a matter of fact, what if we did... Let's add mirror. So let's go mirror on here. And let's see. If we were to move this, let's change the reflection center. Okay, so it's where it should be. Let's change my angle. And whoop. Kind of want to just see if I can get this thing to mirror across the bottom of the screen. So let's see. Of course, it's going to tell me it's maxing out. Let's see if we can move. There we go. So drizzle. And if we want it to kind of look like it's rain puddles or something like that bouncing off the bottom, it's kind of a, I don't know. If I put more thought into this, I could put some perspective and on there. But kind of a cool idea on how to add water. So that was one of the things that I added to this first piece here. And last but not least, let's see, I added some displacement, and actually not last, there's a lot of different things. A lot of different pieces I was messing around with. Oh no, that's under drizzle. There's light and shading I was messing around with. So a lot of different little pieces here to make this happen like this. It's something that I don't expect you guys to have to go this far with one piece of text, but I would like you to experiment with as much as you can with getting the words to feel like they're matching visually with what the description of the word would be. All right. Last but not least, in this one, I have the darkness. And if I were to go further, all this has, and I'll recreate this. This is pretty easy to do. Let's get this text to do what it needs to do. So I'm going to select the mirror. I'm going to get rid of that one. And I'm just going to go into a spotlight. So if I type in spotlight, if I drag that onto this, you'll notice all of a sudden there's a light on the object and everything else gets darker. So what we can do is animate where that's starting. So we can have it go from left to right, from and to. So we can animate that and it'll look like it's shining on it. That's really all I did for that piece, was I ended up adding this spotlight moving across the name, or the word, the darkness. I also had a glow like I talked about earlier on there, and the other part that happened, you'll notice it gets darker. I took that purple out, and the way that I did that is on my top layer, or right underneath the darkness, I have a solid, and if I open up what that's doing, the solid doesn't exist until the very end of my animation, and all that's doing is going from being 0 opacity to 100% subtly as this animation ends. So I'm going to share this with you, and that way you guys can take these pieces apart and see how that's going. I'm also going to be showing you guys how to do a couple other things for our next thing, which is going to be our final project, which is our text animation. So experiment. What I'd like to know in the discussions is what you're deciding to do for this exercise for the text. So in the forum, just post what you think your text is going to be, and I will have this write-up provided for you guys, or it probably already is at this point. So yeah, that's it.